VLSI or electronics, people think that it's all hardware. No, there's tremendous amount of software, tremendous amount of coding expertise that you need. So VLSI is as much about software as about hardware. What industry is looking for really a problem solvers. So there are these engineering problems at hand, and somebody who has a strong fundamentals and somebody who has a passion towards engineering problem solving are the people who are very relevant in the industry. It doesn't matter whether you're from a BTech or from masters or your PhD. For industry, it just means that you have a problem at hand. Can you, along with the team, find out a solution?
Now makes it, given that there's a lot of demand, right, for engineers, makes it very nice for those who can cross that barrier. Because now they have very, very well-paying jobs, right? And the industry is sort of, kind of waiting for them. They really need people like this. And so, that way, yes, getting in is really tough. And let's not say it's not, it is tough, right? But once you're in, this exact thing which was making it tough is now helping you because there's just few people available and there are so many chips to be designed, right? So that's where the result comes. Of course, if you talk in terms of for opportunity, right? India has about 1.25 lakh VLSI engineers currently in India, and this number, is growing about 15-20% every year. To give you an idea, right? The starting salaries, they can start a bit low, so they start 6 to 10, 12 lakhs per annum. But they go up pretty fast by, someone with 8 or 10 years experience, it's like 50 lakhs to 80 lakhs is what they're earning. Someone with 20 years of experience is earning beyond 1 crore, 2 crores, 3 crores. So the companies are not there to train you. The companies are there once you are trained, once you know what to do. So the expectation when you join a job is that you can start designing.
Learn by doing, that's the mantra, and in fact, some of the programs that we are running, really the core theme of that is learn by doing. This means whatever theoretical concepts that you are learning, how can you apply those concepts and solve engineering problems? So this is where the real skill or real learning comes from.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Mosartlabs podcast series episode 1. I'm Praveen. Today we are here to discuss about the VLSI trends, current market and talent gap in the semiconductor industry and how students should be well prepared to get into the semiconductor and chip design field. Joining me today are the two special guests from the industry so that they can clarify all our doubts and queries in VLSI field. Mr. Rajesh Gupta, CEO and co-founder of Mosartlabs. He earned his BTech from IIT Madras in Tripoli and his MS in the USA. He has 27 years of experience in the VLSI industry, 14 years in US and 13 years in India as a site leader of Micron Bangalore, and later as the country head of AMS Osram, India. The chips he has designed have been used in the top brands like Apple iPhones, Tesla cars, BMW cars, and Dell servers, etc. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Praveen.
Our second guest is Dr. Krishnakar Tabalur, CTO and co-founder of Mosartlabs. He completed his BTech and MTech from IIT Bombay and awarded the Shankar Dayal Gold Medal and Student Roll of Honor from IIT Bombay in 2002. He has completed his PhD from IIIT Hyderabad and he has 23 years of work experience in VLSI industry and has designed sensors for top brands like Apple, Samsung, OnePlus, etc. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Praveen.
So now we have our industry giant with us to answer all our questions from the VLSI field and how the VLSI field is right now in India. So without any ado, let's start asking the more question to get more clarity about it. So first of all, thanks for coming here, sir, and just joining us today so that you can enlighten us about the VLSI industry. Thanks for joining us once again. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So to start with, sir, what is Mosartlabs and what is the main objective to start it, and what you people are looking at Mosartlabs at actually?
Okay, let me maybe start and then
Yes,
you
sure.
can join in. So, with Mosartlabs, we wanted to make a significant and meaningful difference to the semiconductor industry in India. So we believe that, we strongly believe that India will become a very significant nation with regard to semiconductors. But however, I mean, already India is making a lot of stuff, but still we have a long way to go to gain that leadership position in semiconductors. So that's where we want to see India, and we want to be part of that story. So that's how we started Mosart Labs, and that's why we have started. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's taking a cue from what Rajesh mentioned, right? So I've been part of several guest lectures, visiting several universities over the years. And what I realized is that, while we do talk to these students, it just gives them a momentary inspiration, but then it doesn't make a big difference to their career paths or their success story. And this is where we wanted Mosart Labs as a company to really be that go-to option for all the VLSI students to really help them get into the mainstream of semiconductor industry. And yeah, that was really the thing. And we always talk about this industry academia gap, right? And this is what we think is needed to really bridge that industry academia gap truly.
Okay. Great, sir. So when you're talking about the gap, so what is the gap? Because even I'm from EC background, but still I'm not in a VLSI industry right now. So what is the gap you're feeling that currently it is there, which you're trying to fill it up? Can you just give us an idea about it?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. See, if you look at what a university will teach you, right? If you want to list down a couple of points on what do you get from a university education. First of all, a university education helps you to understand the breadth, get your theory right, get your analytical skills right. And it is also helping you that peer-to-peer networking, that social connectivity with your with you make your buddies in your university who are your lifelong friends and then so on, right? What so where universities are not doing much is on the problem solving. So while there is a strong theoretical knowledge and it's absolutely essential, I don't deny that you really need to know your fundamentals before you start designing something really big. What industry is looking for really are problem solvers. So there are these engineering problems at hand, and somebody who has a strong fundamentals and somebody who has a passion towards engineering problem solving are the people who are very relevant in the industry. It doesn't matter whether you're from a BTech or from masters or your PhD. For industry, it just means that you have a problem at hand. Can you, along with the team, find out a solution, right? And this is where the gap comes in, because maybe it could be because of a legacy of a curriculum, or it could be because of lack of teachers who have a strong industry experience in the universities. This problem comes in. And so there also, and the other way around is that most people from industry do not have time to teach, and it's also other way around. So that way, so I think so this is where we believe that Mosart Labs can really bridge that gap between academia and industry by bringing the best of both worlds to really create a unique curriculum which is really top notch.
Understood. So, and adding to that, I just want to understand from you also, so how the things is going to fill the gap and etc.
Yeah. So just to build on what Dr. Krishnakant mentioned, right? So we wanted to see, hey, what are other areas which are also very intense in terms of what the amount of material that needs to be understood. And one such area we came upon, which is also very well established, is the medicine. So, for example, right, if we try to take a look at how are doctors trained, how do they go through their curriculum and practice and become a doctor, right? We'll start to notice that on top of academic teachers from their college teaching them, a lot of those teachers are working doctors, working surgeons. So if you want someone to learn surgery, right, you can't teach surgery in class. You can teach some theory, they can understand how it works and all, right. But finally, to do the last mile, you need a person who does this daily and can show them how it is done, right? And that last piece is really critical, we thought. So thinking along those lines, if you now apply that to VLSI, right? So we have really, really smart teachers and students that are learning, right? But at the same time, if you want to be ready and say, hey, I'm ready for the job, you know so please keep in mind, right, the companies are not training institutes. What are companies doing? Companies are going to pay you a salary, pay you money, so that you can be a part of their team and develop latest chips that can then compete with their competitors and do well in the market. So the companies are not there to train you. The companies are there once you are trained, once you know what to do. So the expectation when you join a job is that you can start designing. You are comfortable with the industry tools, and you can start designing. So maybe taking another example, right? Let us say if you have only sat in classes and done paper and pencil exams, right? Paper and pen exams, and then all of a sudden you're thrown in front of this computer with very very fancy software code, that tools that the present day industry engineers are using, and say, okay, go design this circuit, right? It's hard, right? They first need the practice, they need to be able to do it. And yes, they can learn a lot, like Dr. Krishnakant mentioned, they can understand the fundamentals in college. But I think there is something about an industry practicing professional, teaching something. And I think that is a critical ingredient. It has already been proven, I would say, in the medical profession, that that really works. And so we have drawn inspiration from there. And we think this would make a real difference in VLS education.
Great. Sir, and also I just understood that Mosart Labs is into VLSI industry as an R&D company as well. So can you just give us an idea about, from both of you, I would like to understand. So what is this BMS solution and what we are trying to, and also I heard that this is the first company in India, just we have started with the BMS solution for India. So just I want to understand about it, sir.
Yeah, so both me and Rajesh, we come from a core product background. I mean, we have cumulative 50 years of experience really designing the semiconductor products, which have gone into several solutions like consumer mobile phones, then automotive, and so on. So our core expertise lies in building the entire product, starting from a customer requirement all the way to unlimited production. I mean, if you see the number of millions of hundreds of millions of phones that get sold, right? To design a chip for a specific application into that phone, you really have to go through a very a pretty lengthy procedure, starting from a requirement all the way down to design, and production, then taking into a unlimited production ramp up, right? So in that sense, while we want to have this the edutech thing, really training upskill, that's something that's very very close to both of our hearts. Our core skill also lies in finding product solutions, and here we've identified that the battery management systems are going to be very very interesting for us. That's because you know um, if you look at the two-wheeler or a three-wheeler market, it's all happening in global south. This means India, Indonesia, China, Malaysia. This is the place where you see a lot of two-wheelers, a lot of three-wheelers which are EVs, which and the market is really exploding. And and most solutions right now that are meant for this are either expensive, or they are coming from US or Europe, or they are coming from China. We really don't have so the solution has basically two parts. One is the board, where on top of this board you have all the individual ICs being soldered, and then the IC design itself, designing this IC itself, right? So we don't have indigenous IC or the chip design solution provided in the country yet, because we're still dependent on this supply chain that is either coming from US or coming from Europe or coming from China. And this is where our motivation was to really make in India, not only for India but for the world, right? And this is where we have started making, I mean, we have started taking our steps towards really indigenizing this battery management solution and rebuilding the chip.
Okay. Yeah. And sort of, just building on the point I was mentioning about the medical industry, right? Just like the teachers are teaching, but they're also practicing. So we have to apply that to ourselves. We can't say that we'll only be teaching. So we should teach and we need to practice what we do, so that that's the only way we can stay current, right? Otherwise, in 2, 3, 4 years, we are also going to get outdated because the industry is growing really fast, right? So that was also another sort of motivation. And of course, once you get into this field and you start liking what you're doing, um, to some extent, I wouldn't say use exactly the word, it's like an addiction. You can't leave it. Like, you want to keep doing it, you want to keep designing chips, you want to keep making. It's quite exciting. So for that reason as well, I don't think we can stop doing that. Now, like Dr. Krishnakant mentioned, so BMS board wise, there are several startups and companies, established companies in India that are designing them. However, the ICs, nobody is doing it. So this would be where we would be, let's say, at least assuming we do it, be the first. So we're still in the process of getting there. Uh, but yeah, that's our motivation. That we think that it makes sense to do both, and that's how it should be. And like I said, we are not doing something totally new. This has been well proven in the medical industry. They do this all the time. So we are sort of, learning from them and applying it to VLSI.
Great.
Yeah, think of this battery management solution system on chip as the pacemaker for batteries. Now, as the batteries are moving from a lead acid technology to a lithium ion technology, uh, be it the two-wheelers or be it the cars, drones, garden tools, UPS market, all of these will need to stack all these lithium ion cells. And for that, you need this pacemaker. You need this system on chip solution, which will actually control the charging, discharging, monitor the health of the battery. And this is exactly what the chip that we intend to do.
Great.
Maybe just to add, and this is my favorite way of saying it. So the batteries had a certain amount of energy, and what is happening is you want more and more energy in a smaller and smaller space. Actually, if you extend it, right, and you ask the question, what is a bomb, right? A bomb is nothing but a lot of energy compressed in a small space. Now, our batteries are not yet bombs, but they are getting there, right? So you do need a lot of electronics that can react very fast, a lot of sensors that are monitoring it to make sure that it's always stable and is not going to explode on you. So because the batteries can, once they sort of age or something happens, they can get overheated and go into thermal runaway and such things. So that's what it's doing. It's really protecting the battery and, the vehicle.
Great.
That's what the
Great.
VM
Great.
is.
Sir, I want to understand. Recently, we are just seeing that India is moving into semiconductor fabs and etc., which is happening in as an initiative. So, what do you think about it? Like, how we can see our India in future? How this is going to help the VLSI industry people?
Yeah, I think the good news is there's a lot of momentum. The industry, sees the potential and is investing and wants to grow in semiconductors. The government is pushing big time. There's a lot of support and initiatives from the government that has not been there until recently. And then, so I think with this combination, and a third thing is there is really, I would say, a lot of call it talented young people in India, right? So where there is a lot of demand, right? This is the perfect, I would say, opportunity where there is good amount of engineering talent, strong demand from the industry, and good support from the government. So I see this working very well together. But like any real story, right? It's not going to be a breeze. It's going to be difficult. Like any think of like different countries, like different businesses, right? As the business grows, it's not like there's not going to be competition. It's not like they're not going to have challenges. So we are going to go through those. It's not going to be easy, and we'll have to solve our own problems. Like these are problems other countries have solved in their own ways, and we will sort of figure out how that works for us and solve it. So I see that we have a bright future, but it's not something where I just sit and wait for the future and it comes. We'll have to work our way and earn it, if you will, and really go through tough situations, solve the problems. And that's why we feel like this next generation, right? We feel training this next generation and empowering them will also be a very important part of this semiconductor story. So it's not just about companies coming in from India and doing great things, but I think it'll also be about a lot of innovation and ideas coming from this new generation that even we can't think about, right? And they then, script this new future for us. So that's what at least I strongly believe.
Yeah, I think very rightly said. So I can give a simple example. Right? During the COVID time, we saw that people who are sitting in India, they wanted to. I mean, there's COVID happening, and then now when you suddenly want to buy an electric vehicle, right, or any in terms of any car, right, the wait times were really insane. Probably we have to wait for 18 months.
Yeah,
When you
that is
buy a car, and this we have experienced, right? Now, how do you correlate this? There's COVID, and let's say even Russia-Ukraine war, and suddenly your local car showroom is telling you, please wait for 18 months, right?
huh.
The reason for this is what is called a supply chain. So this means not one company right, a single company cannot manufacture all the components that are necessarily done to build a product, be it a phone, be it a satellite, be it a car. Every company has its own strength. They make the respective ICs, or it could be the display, or it could be the software, it could be the case. And then together there is a system integrator who will all bring it together. And that's how you get your Apple iPhone or your Samsung phone, right? Now, what happens during the supply chain is that you need the talent pool, you need resources, you need the different ICs, and the whole semiconductor or the VLSI ecosystem is so complex that even if you don't get one part, right? I give you the same example. Let's say you take a car, right? You have this airbags deployment, right? Now you have all the parts of a car ready, but then you don't have the airbag sensor available, right? Can you take your car out of your of the manufacturing site? No. So now that's a very tiny chip, but that's a very important part of the car because without the airbag, yeah, and you don't guarantee the safety. And it's not like you're using your airbag every day. You're not like it's not like a car
That is
or a horn where you just honk every day, right? So it's an airbag which you probably may or may not use in your entire life cycle, and that's the beauty of this. So the ecosystem is very complex. You need all of things, all these bits and pieces, all the bricks coming together and building and coming an entire solution. And that's why I think post COVID, uh, many countries have realized, and then US Chips Act or the European Chips Act, even Indian Semiconductor Mission really gained momentum after that, where we now start, every country realize how strategically important it is to invest in semiconductors. You know, the easiest way to understand VLSI or semiconductors is that software always needs a home to stay, and that home is semiconductors.
got it.
Without semiconductors, there's really no place for software to stay, right? And that's why strategically this VLSI is extremely important for all the countries, and and being such a great talent pool for the world, right? I mean, we have almost 25% of the semiconductor workforce of the world is coming from India, so we have a great talent pool. We just need to really strategize well in terms of our manufacturing, in terms of building the capability to do products. And we are a great market, with 1.4 billion population, we are a fantastic market for any product that we do. And this is what gives India a very strategic advantage in semiconductors.
Great, sir. So, just I want to understand, as you were just talking about the challenges in semiconductor industry, like what is the opportunities the students can get it right now? Like how the student has major thing is like what is the opportunity and how the student should be ready to grab that opportunity.
Okay, so I probably start with a legacy, a bit of a history, right? So if you look at how the engineering education was probably maybe 3-4 decades before, you know, most times if you hear from the elder generation, they would have finished their bachelor's degree and would have finished their master's degree going into the engineering, right? It could be civil engineering, it could be metallurgy, it could be mechanical, it could be electrical. Now what has happened in the last 30-40 years with this IT revolution, right? um, you see that people started getting jobs right after their BTech, and the companies were interested in spending more time on on-job training, right? So now slowly that 6 years of training that you have normally got in an engineering, which is let's say 4 years of BTech and 2 years of MTech, slowly got somehow shifted into a new normal where people thought, okay, 4 years of engineering education is sufficient to get a job, right? That was a new normal that is set. So now, and that's just because people used to recruit right after their college. There are need for more software coders. A lot of this IT revolution, people got jobs right after their BTech. But the conventional disciplines, right now, electrical engineering or mechanical or civil, whatever, right? You still need that specialization. So this means, and if I can exactly take the example that Rajesh has told about in the medical profession. If you look at how a student who joins MBBS takes his career, right? He or she is really prepared to do the MBBS first, four years of MBBS, then do your residency or your internship, and then get into a postgraduate specialization, masters. Then even you pick a super specialization, and then you are really ready to enter the real world. So, and that's why the profession is so niche, and there's a lot of demand for doctors, right? I think we need to go back to that basics, and then reimagine our engineering education as 6 years. So this means the students needs to not only finish your breadth from the BTech course, but also needs to upskill in terms of either masters or MS, or the PG diplomas that really give you the additional skill set to solve real world problems. So I think it starts from a mindset saying Let's not assume that, okay, 4 years of a college education in a core discipline like EC or Triple E, that's enough to get us a job. So this is where I think it starts. And I think once the student starts investing time in upskilling, I'm sure you now learn how to do things. You get into the rigor of engineering problem solving, and then you become very, very relevant to the industry, because that is what industry does.
Okay.
And this has, okay, why is it taking more time, right? Let's just because we have gone through it, let's not underestimate. It is difficult. It is complex. Let me not say that these fields are easy. Electronics is easy. No, it's not easy. It's quite difficult, right? But if you keep at it, right? If you stay focused that I want to do it, you will definitely be able to do it. Yes, it'll take some time and it'll take effort on your side, but you're able to do it. But then what this thing does is this high barrier for entry, which comes saying that you need to really know all this before you can get in, now makes it, given that there's a lot of demand, right, for engineers, makes it very nice for those who can cross that barrier, because now they have very, very well paying jobs, right? And the industry is sort of kind of waiting for them. They really need people like this. And so that way, yes, getting in is really tough. And let's not say it's not, it is tough, right? But once you're in, this exact thing which was making it tough is now helping you, because there's just few people available and there are so many chips to be designed, right? So that's where the result comes. Of course, if you talk in terms of for opportunity, right? India has about 1.25 lakh VLSI engineers currently in India, and this number, is growing about 15-20% every year. It's expected to grow faster, but this has been in the past. But keep in mind, um, okay, it is growing 15 to 20%, and you'll also notice that about 5 to 10% of these engineers, right, are actually relocating every year outside of India. They're going to other countries, right? So that means the new college grads that are required to fill this gap, right, is even more than 20. It's 25-30%. So that means there's every year we need 30,000 plus skilled VLSI engineers. There's demand for those. Now, let us say we need 30,000, and if I'm only getting 10,000, what do you think will happen? So then companies will realize, oh, okay, I got my 10,000. What do I do? Like, I can either slow down my products, which is not good, because I know I can make money. So what do I do, right? Then sometimes company says, okay, I'll try to take a student who is uh, half as good. I will train the rest. I'll try to see at least the student knows something. I'll try to train. It's like saying, like, suppose we are there's a heavy demand for cricketers. There's so much cricket happening that we just need more and more. Then you say, hey, there's not enough good cricketers. What do you do? Okay, you see someone who has some potential that you can train, then you take it. And then slowly the companies also, do some training or whatever, right? And that's sort of where it's headed. But this is not sustainable. Companies are not designed to train students, and this has been my experience as well. So since I came to India, right, we have hired a lot of new college graduates. I have seen them become really successful engineers in the industry, right? And actually, it was that experience, the last more than a decade of sort of every year hiring a lot of students, seeing, helping them grow, helping them, develop, is when we realize that, look, this is not the job of a company. And why don't we take this up full time and really do it right? Because there is a gap, for whatever reason. And why this gap comes about is because, let us say, now these engineers become really precious in the sense they are paid highly, right? Now the colleges will struggle to find teachers. Why? Because all the top engineers have been eaten up by the industry, and they just keep getting paid more and more. To give you an idea, right? The starting salaries, they can start a bit low. So they start, 6 to 10, 12 lakhs per annum, but they go up pretty fast by, someone with 8 or 10 years experience. It's like 50 lakhs to 80 lakhs is what they're earning. Someone with 20 years of experience is earning beyond 1 crore, 2 crores, 3 crores. Now, how can a college, afford these salaries, right? So then, of course, there are some people who are really motivated to teach. and there will be some of those, and some of the top colleges will be able to have some such teachers, but otherwise on a broad scale, right, this will be a challenge as well. So yes, it is great to cross that barrier, but then that also has other effects, like I said.
Sir, next question I have for you is like recently when we are just speaking to the students, even the tier 2 or tier 3 colleges also, even sometimes even the tier 1 colleges as well, they are not having much MNC or core companies just coming to there, because they maximum they are getting the IT companies for the placements, right? Either CSE or something jobs which they're having it. So why people are not hiring directly from the university? Why the core company is not showing much interest to hire those people from directly from the campus placements?
Okay, I think so. So here we also need to look at some more statistics, right? So yes, I told you there are 1.25 lakh VLSI engineers in India. You should also see how many software engineers are there in India, and you'll find that that number is closer. It's between 6 to 10 lakhs, right? So the number of software engineers and that industry is one order of magnitude bigger than VLSI. Now, if you have this situation, right, of course you will, and in India, you'll find that ideally speaking, right, if let us say the engineering colleges knew this, right, what would they do? They would have their computer science department be 10 times bigger than the electronics department, which would be a lot bigger than all, like proportionately based on the jobs, right? But unfortunately that's not how it is, right? There are certain strengths, right? And it has scaled, definitely. The computer science departments have become bigger, but they haven't scaled proportionately. So this is what created the opportunity or the requirement that, okay, the software guys realize we really need a lot of people. Okay, if you don't know, we'll train. So it's all kind of demand and supply. So the company never wants to train, but if it is not left with any other options, then that's what they end up doing, is they take really smart students, and then they sort of do the rest of the training. And now, sort of coming back to, right, your question, why are only mostly, so maybe one part is because there is just that many more software jobs, so you will find them coming everywhere. But why aren't MNCs, coming to tier 2, tier 3 colleges, right? I can't speak about all the companies, but I have, even in our own personal experience, right? We have hired from tier 2, tier 3 colleges, and it worked, right? But the thing is that always, right, it is, um, we are finding that we are able to get even, more students, or easily get students from tier 1, then, I'm not that much. Anyway, if I have to train them, right, then I can go. But the thing that happens is, if let's say a company comes and they hire some students, right, but let us say after a while they're finding that this college, when I hire the students, it's easier for me to train, and they are able to perform really well, then that will change it, right? Then that MNC is now going to go towards those other colleges. And these MNCs, keep in mind, are willing to pay premium for all these engineers. So for them, they'd rather not train and find good people. And that's the reason they want to, go to the, let's say, more prestigious colleges, because it feels like they're going to get better student. Whether that ultimately happens or not, okay, that is the case. But in general, right, if a college is rated better on an average, the students are learning more and doing better. So for that reason, MNCs usually don't go to tier 2, tier 3. But don't get me wrong, there is a strong demand, and if there are people who are able to do things well, like who, like we said, can independently do their design or their part, in an instant, these companies will hire them.
Yeah, I think since we are talking about the VLSI versus software thing, right? Like you rightly pointed out, I'll bring in a historical aspect to this interesting discussion. And if you look back into early 90s, right, um, many big companies across the world, they wanted to invest in manpower and manufacturing. Okay, so now if you compare India versus China, India had more English speaking students. So really, they were the guys who were extremely useful for service sector. Start the PPO, start the call centers, and so on. Whereas China, the with all the local ecosystem, the manufacturing was a lot easier. So if you look from late 80s and early 90s, right, that's how the whole thing started. So we really boomed a lot on the service sector, IT sector, and then so many companies, homegrown companies, have started and they have really flourished. Whereas China focused entirely on manufacturing, and no wonder now if you see anything and everything starting from a safety pin all the way to satellite is somehow linked to manufacturing in China, right? So and while while the engineering education started that way, now every department, whether you're in electrical engineering or computer science or mechanical or civil, you always see that your C course is taught in first semester, right? And if I take an example of electrical engineering, the Verilog course, which is which is basically used how to design digital circuits, right? They are somehow taught either in the third, fourth, or fifth semester. So I think this is pretty late in the game. So conventionally, whatever you call it, electrical or mechanical or civil, right? Ultimately, the mantra has been to really produce coders, because ultimately, so I mean, if you don't have core jobs and you at least have a plan B option, get into the software, right? I think this is where people who are focused on engineering, we probably need to push this. Some of the curriculum also needs to be updated. Really have students work on the theoretical aspects and learn some of these basic tools early in the game, first year, second year, and spend the third and fourth year of engineering education really applying these concepts and solving problems, right? So that way you will now see that if you really want to get into VLSI design, right, don't take a plan B or a shorter route and say, okay, so really put that focus. Like Rajesh was mentioning, it is tough. It needs a lot of rigor, but every challenge now comes with a brilliant opportunity. There's a great opportunity where once you excel in this, right, really, you have a fantastic career there. So for all the VLSI students who are listening to this podcast, really, uh, be at it, put that effort, go through that grind, because, a great future awaits you in VLSI.
Great, sir. And so, how the student has to be prepared? For example, as the semiconductor industry is tough, and also this thing, people moving into the easy and other jobs. So, how do you think that students should start their career if they want to start their career in VLSI? How they should start it from the basics? How they should start?
Yeah, I think your question also has the answer. The basics have to be absolutely strong, because electronics is very multidisciplinary in nature. So you need the rigor of math. You have to have the physics fundamentals, and somehow VLSI electronics, people think that it's all hardware. No, there's tremendous amount of software, tremendous amount of coding expertise that you need. So VLSI is as much about software as about hardware. So you need your coding skills, you need to have your fundamentals on maths, physics, and then really learn by doing. That's the mantra, right? And in fact, some of the programs that we are running, really the core theme of that is learn by doing. So it means whatever theoretical concepts that you are learning, how can you apply those concepts and solve engineering problems? So this is where the real skill or real learning comes from. And also in the VLSI field, if you look at how the chips are designed, right? So of course, most of the design happens on the computer. So you start with some models, you start with designs, you design it on the computer, and then send it from manufacturing into some of these fabs that are somehow. I think it's good that we have some fabs now. They're getting started, but conventionally these are all for manufacturing are sent out to either Taiwan, or or Europe or US. And once the silicon comes back, right, so it's really, that's the difference between a software and hardware. So you can probably recompile a code and make it work, but the chip that you have designed is not working, right? So then a lot of man hours and man months of time gets wasted. So the real learning comes from when you take the chip that you have designed, go to the lab, test it, and prove that whatever you intended to design this is exactly what you're getting, and now put it in the application. So lab environment is different from a real-time environment, right? Test it, and that is what you get your learning from. Really, silicon will teach you. It's a great teacher. Silicon teaches you more than anybody else, right? So it's a great teacher. Once you have that expertise of learning back, sending it from manufacturing, getting a chip back, testing your chip, and then understanding how it is working, then debug why things are not working as it is, right? This is where you really build your skill, and that is why the learn by doing is extremely important. The whole the ability to design a product, or ability to design VLSI, comes from the fact that you start from your requirement, you go all the way to tape out, which is sending the database to manufacturing, bring it back to the lab, measure it, find out where things are not meeting as expected, debug, and then make sure that you learn that. So, and this is the learning that you will now take in designing the next product, and that is how the real learning evolves. So, and most times, I mean, in our engineering education, we really don't we don't see the, I mean, we see only probably the first 30% of it. The remaining 70% of the game, you don't see it. And this is where industry I mean, industry experts have to pitch in to really make sure that the remaining 70% of the gap is somehow filled in, so that the more rigor we bring in, the more skillful the students become right out of their college.
I 100% agree, 100% with what Krishnakant is saying. I also have I would say, different perspective. This is 100% true, right? But also one place I feel that we miss the boat, right? Is a lot of times, and I've been in such classes as well. You go through a class, you've done the course, right? If I'm truly honest to myself, I didn't learn anything. I came out of zero. I passed the course, by the way. It's not like I failed or something. I would have passed the course. I wrote something, but I couldn't connect. I really don't properly understand what they're trying to say, what is going on. And something happened, right? And I did pass, but I didn't learn, right? We have to be brutally honest to ourselves, right? That is not acceptable. Now, let's be also honest that we probably cannot learn each and every course very well. There's going to be some courses that are going to be closer to our hearts that we will, learn and understand better. And some will be like this course where, you kind of pass the course a year later it's all wiped out, right? So so I think I would urge the students to be also very mindful of these. Let us say if I want to go into VLSI, right? And if those VLSI courses were the ones where things have gotten wiped out, right? Then I need to reconsider, hey, for whatever reason, I didn't connect with the teacher or with the notes or lesson. Somehow there was a disconnect and I didn't learn, right? It's it's no point in, blaming someone, like blaming the teacher or blaming yourself for the situation. That's the fact, right? But at that moment you have, two paths to pursue. You can say, look, I am going to I'm going to learn this. I'm going to do this, and I want to do this. And you're going to say, you know what, maybe that's not for me. Let me do something else. These are the two ways. But I think that honest self evaluation is important, right? And I think that'll help students to really know, look, I really don't know, this is where I am, right? It's very dangerous to think that, hey, look, I you passed, got very good grades, say, hey, I have great grades, why is this company not hiring me? Okay, grades are really good and we admire that. Could you design this, or can you do this verification or something? It's like, whoa, okay, no, I can't do it. And I have a personal experience in that. I'll tell you honestly. This was early on in a different context. I was in my 11th grade, right? And I was at the top of my class in school, right? Especially in science. I used to, routinely score very high, especially physics and math, at least to myself, I thought I was best in the world, right? Uh, Okay. So then I realized that, okay, there is this thing called IIT and all JEE. We need to write some exam. I said, what is the big deal? Of course, I can do it. So they said, oh, you're supposed to take these classes and all to prepare you. Said, okay, maybe there are some different topics that they will cover. Let me go join some classes. Okay, there was a long struggle to get into some of those classes. Let's say, fast forward, I got into the class, right? For the first time, I realized, the subjects that I thought I was awesome at, I didn't understand anything. Like, as a blank. What is this? What? Really, I didn't know what they were saying, right? I was just above my head. And at school, right, I just scored 100 on 100 in that physics paper. I could sit in this class. I'm like, I don't get it. And turns out, what made it hurt more? It was at least the topic name was the same. Like, come on. How can you teach the same topic for which in my school I already got 100 on 100 and I'm struggling here, I'm really struggling, right? A- and it was hard, preparing for JE was very hard because that exam is tough, right? They really push you and check, did you really understand it? Are you really, creative enough that even if you understand it, you can creatively solve those problems? So I think, you know pushing yourself, learning. And I think that opened a lot of, it made me aware of more things that, hey, it's easy to think I'm doing good. It's easy sometimes to get, a good grade. But, have I truly understood it? If given a problem, can I solve it? I think we have to be open about it. And like we said, let's all agree electronics is hard, so it takes effort.
Great, sir.
Yeah, this reminds me of my own example in when I was studying in IIT. Like all of us, right, we have our own personal favorites in terms of our courses. You like this course, you probably don't. Probably that course is not a bit of a favorite. So I had this, electrical motors course, which uh, the professor was brilliant. I was not as good to understand it. Probably not a good student at that point of time. But I was okay in other courses, right? So I somehow managed to, you know, just go through that course, go through the rituals, and somehow, get a decent grade. But I was not paying attention to the fundamentals of the course. So this is where the learning comes. So learning is not in the details or in the way you're solving problems, but learning is absorbing the key philosophy or the fundamentals of a certain course, right? So I finished the course, then I realized, okay, fine, I'm done with this. I don't need to study about this for the rest of my life. Guess what? The 15 years later, I was asked to design a BLDC motor controller in the company. Now, the same course which I thought will never come back to me in my life has hunted me down. Now I went back, opened this electrical motors textbook, and understood what is a motor, what is a synchronous motor, DC motor, that's all. So the point I'm trying to make here from my own experience is that whenever you take a course, right, understand the philosophy of a course. Just go through you might get a good grade or you might get a bad grade. That doesn't matter. But just go through the fundamentals of that, and then just make sure you remember the fundamentals. What was the principle, the key principles behind it, and so on. That will help you to correlate once you are in the industry. Believe me, the struggle doesn't stop once you get into the industry as well. So it's still the same. You are expected to solve problems, engineering problems, right? These are tough problems. So once you get into that problem solving mode, all these learnings, all these fundamentals, you would see all the cricketers, Virat Kohli's, Rohit Sharma's, the Yashasvi Jaiswal's really practicing hard in the net. Why? Because if you put the trigger, if you put that intensity and then practice hard, then when you actually face the real scenario,
So why Mosartlabs is having a model of online instead of offline?
what we have is an immersion program. And here what we do is every semester for 2 weeks, the students are all coming together, across the country. All the students are invited to IIT Bhubaneswar campus.
So how Mosartlabs is helping about the placement opportunities and how confident Mosartlabs is getting people placed in a MNC company or a core company. So why people are losing a job because of artificial intelligence and what do you think it's an impact? So just I want to understand the PG diploma program. So what we are offering to the students right now. Is it those jobs also might taken by AI or what will be the future of those students in this AI implementation?